Clever 1972. Back with Brian's movies he's watched. This week it's June. Um, what day is this? Oh, 23rd, Saturday. So I do this. I've been doing this weekly series for 2 weeks now. Last week, I mean, and the previous week. This week I managed to watch 5 movies. I was gonna. I thought possibly watching another movie tonight and then doing this video a little later during the night, maybe even in the wee hours of Sunday morning. But I decided not to. I just wanted to get this up on YouTube, so I decided to just go with what I've watched. I mean, I did watch something today, but it was something I had watched yesterday, and I fell asleep while I watched it late at night. So I had to pick up on where I left off so I could know the story better. But anyways, um, the first film I saw this week was on Tuesday. It was Atomic Blonde, with Charlize Theron and James McAvoy, and uh, two of these movies I'm going to show you James McAvoy was in this week. So um, I don't know if this movie that I took out of the library that a YouTube friend of mine he he, he bought, and I decided I might as well take a look at it. And Yeah, so the James McAvoy, I already own a film. Maybe I have more than one film James McAvoy in it that I own myself. But maybe that's what triggered the other film, and I'll show you that in just a second. That's the last film I watched this week, which is okay. So, anyways, this is Atomic Blonde. Um, so, like I said, Charlize Theron, James McAvoy, and John Goodman were in this movie. Um, so, my opinion of this movie, well, first of all, it's this. It's set during the time of 1989 Berlin. Um, the wall's about to come down, and um, Charlize Theron is sent as a spy to to retrieve this information from the East Berlin and bring it over to West Berlin. Um, it's a it's a list she has to get, and there's a person who has this list. James McAvoy sort of like he's like he works the scene in East Berlin, and I think he goes to West Berlin too, and he's sort of like a black market kind of guy. I think that's what his character is kind of like. But anyways, so what I thought of this movie was some of it seemed kind of pretentious, like the scenes where Charlize Theron is in a tub of ice water. I found that a little like I'm trying to be um, cool. I'm trying to you know uh, submerge myself in this ice water so it looks like I can endure a lot of pain or something. I mean, it's a foreshadowing of something that happens later on in the movie, but I don't understand the ice water tub scene. I don't really get that. And the films feel kind of stiff in some areas, like they're reading off the script. It didn't feel organic. But then parts of it, like towards the end of the movie, I think more towards the end, seemed much more organic, more free, not as stiff. Because I think this was, I mean, you can storyboard a film, but it has to feel natural, and it felt like it was just like the lines were being fed, and it didn't seem very lifelike. It seemed very stilted, in my opinion. But it is a good action movie, especially at the end of the movie. With the action scenes, that's pretty cool. I like that a lot. So there is something to say for this. The cinematography is beautiful, um, and then it has a whole bunch of songs in that time period. Rock pop songs that like when I was alive at that time period, I was like late teens maybe. So I recall some of this music. So, but anyways, that's enough of that. So let's get to the next one. Maybe this will be a short video this week. I have no idea. We'll see. Next one is a Criterion. It's recommended by a friend of mine. Um, and yeah, it's called The Confession. It's directed by Costa Gavras, who directed maybe his most famous film would be Z. Now, this involves Stalinist Russia and how this guy is arrested and taken for interrogation and torture to come out with a confession, which I think he's not even sure what the confession is, but he's sort of battered and beaten to come out with like a certain kind of, they like beat him into, like admitting something that he didn't do at all. It's typical, totalitarian type of torture kind of thing, and he's put up for a trial, but the trial isn't fair, of course. It's just, it's set up for um, like to blame people, and maybe people that were helpful with the Soviet Union at the start, but then they're no longer seen as useful, so they're going to be thrown, because Stalin, maybe he wants to have power, so he's getting rid of the other people that were more powerful to begin with. His the actor the main character is played by Yves Montand, a French actor, I believe, and his wife is played by Simone Signoret. I don't know if I'm saying her last name right. Um, and she's wondering what's happening to her husband because she hasn't seen him for a while. And they say, "Oh, he's just." They make it up an excuse. They don't tell him that he's being tortured. So, and then Gabriel Ferzetti's in this film. Gabriel Ferzetti, he was in Antonioni's The L'Avventura. He was in a James Bond film on Her Majesty's Secret Service. He played Draco in that, and he was in Once Upon a Time in the West as I think he's handicapped in the Once Upon a Time in the West movie. Um, anyways, so the cinematography for this film was done by Raoul Cotard, who was the cinematographer on a few of Godard's movies. Set photography was done by Chris Marker. Chris Marker, I think it was before this because this came out in 1970 or 71. He did the movie La Jetée, which is a famous short French film set in the future, which involves just still photographs. And at one point, you see something happen during the movie. It's a very short movie. It's only like 20 minutes or something, La Jetée. But anyways, he was a set photographer on this film. Oh, I can't believe it. I forgot to give you my rating of Atomic Blonde. So Atomic Blonde, out of 5 stars, I would give this film 3 stars. 3 stars out of 5. I don't think 3.5. Yeah, I'd give it 3 stars. Confession, I would give. I give it. Um, maybe 4.5. I mean, because this is showing what a government can do when left to its own devices. Another film that sort of plays upon that theme, is that the right way to say it, is Salo by Pasolini, which I've only watched once. It's a pretty intense movie to watch. I mean, there's a pretty disgusting scene in it that will make you like not want to eat very well for a few weeks, not a few weeks, few days maybe. Um, I don't want to give anything away of that film, but I don't encourage everybody to see Salo because, I mean, I don't know if I could ever watch it again. I mean, it has a very, 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 very disgusting scene in it. So, but in terms of how this relates to the confession, is that these young people in Salo are forced into various acts of submission um, that humiliate, you could say, and debase them, and um, maybe not quite the same direction. Well, sort of. I mean, this is to make it seem like justice is being done in this film, and the other one, I maybe is just pure sadism. I don't know, but um, anyways, that's a confession for you. Okay, so next up we got here's a film I watched off of Mubi again, the streaming site that I told you about. This film was directed by the guy who directed Tuki Buki. Um, Tuki Buki is an African film from Senegal. It's in if you buy Criterion's, or there's a Criterion box set. Two of them were released. They're called the Martin Scorsese World Cinema Project. I believe that's the title it goes by. And when he released his first one, which was a few years back, one of the films he released, it's not his films, it's not Scorsese's films, it's people, um, it's films he selects from around the world that maybe don't get a lot of exposure and should. But anyways, the one he picked for his first box set, one of the films he chose was Tuki Buki, which was this film from Africa. And I think it was the first film of this director's. His name is Djibril Diop Mambéty. So the first name is Djibril. Second, Diop. And the third, Mambety. It takes place in the city, I guess it's the city of Dakar, Dakar. This involves, and okay, the name of the movie is called The Little Girl Who Sold the Sun. This involves a handicapped girl. She's raised by her grandmother, her grandmother's blind, and the handicapped girl, she has a fake leg and she has two crutches that she walks on, and she needs money. This is a third world country, and she goes and she tries to sell newspapers, and it tells about how she goes about selling newspapers and the conflicts she finds with selling them. So I guess that does it for that. I mean, I guess that I hope I'm not spoiling these movies. I mean, I don't think I am too much. But The Little Girl Who Sold the Sun is only like 40 something minutes long, and it's a pretty good movie. I'm going to give this film 4 stars. Because it shows you an area of the world which you might not be aware of. Well, I don't know if you might not be aware of, but see as part of the world where things are kind of tough on people, because of the conditions that they live in. Okay, so now the fourth film I watched is probably the worst film of the ones I watched this week. It's called One on Top of the Other. It's an Italian movie. It's directed by Lucio Fulci. It stars Jean Sorel from Belle de Jour, who played the husband of the Catherine Deneuve character in Belle de Jour. Belle de Jour was directed by Louis Buñuel, and that's a really good movie. That's one of my favorite films. Probably that and Viridiana by Buñuel, my favorite Buñuel films. This was also on the movie, and it said I watched it because they said it played off of Vertigo, and it was set in San Francisco. It had, I don't know if the other actors were Italian because John Sorrell is French, I believe, but it was filmed in San Francisco, New York, and Paris, I believe. Yeah, Paris. The When you watch a film, you can tell it's dubbed. That's typical of Italian films of that time period, though. And but I just didn't like the film that much. It's just kind of this who done it, frame it kind of thing. This people being accused of something that they um, um, helped to get themselves implicated in something that they didn't uh, force themselves into, if that's the way I can put it. So it involves like this mistaken identity theme in it, and I just found the sets incredibly dated, the music incredibly dated. Um, the music was good in certain ways, in certain points of the movie, like at the start, but then it sounded really, really dated. This film came out in '69, I think, and I mean, some of the sets, I mean, you can tell they're 1960s. I don't know. It makes me think of another film I watched fairly recently called Beyond the not Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, which looks pretty dated by today's standards. And I know it's the '60s. I know it's portraying the time period that it is, but I think they could have put more effort and more thought into the way they um, did the set design. I mean, it just looked bland and flashy and what's that word? Gaudy. It looked awful in my opinion. Um, so I don't even think this is a good movie. It sort of comes close in ways in the plot, maybe in certain ways, but not really. So I'm going to give this film maybe 2 stars and a half. 2 stars and a half. So good would be three stars, but I'm giving this 2 stars and a half, which means it's a little above poor. So it's pretty bad. So don't go out of your way to watch this movie. It's pretty bad. Last film I watched is another film with James McAvoy, and it has Morgan Freeman and Angelina Jolie in it as well. Wanted. I looked up on Wikipedia. It said this film was a big critical and commercial success when it came out. What did I think of this movie? Well, let me just say who's in it. So besides those people, Common the rapper is in it. Terrence Stamp is in it, and Chris Pratt. Pratt makes like a smaller appearance in the movie. He's having an affair with James McAvoy's character's girlfriend or wife. I think it's his girlfriend. Um, and this is 2008, so I don't know how prominent Chris Pratt is on the scene in the movie business at this time period. And the score was by Danny Elfman, and it came, 2008. This film, it starts off with James McAvoy as this accountant who works at this office, and then he finds out he's part of this fraternity that his father was like a part of a secret society or something like that. And there's a twist when he meets a fraternity, and something happens, during the movie that changes things, takes the film in a 180-degree angle. The action is impressive in this movie. I mean, there's shots where like James McAvoy at the start of the film is running across the road, and Angelina Jolie is driving this car, and she swings it around like in a 360 whatever, and she opens the door of the passenger side, and it just sweeps him into the car. She angles it a certain way, and he's thrown into the car, and then the car door closes, which is kind of cool. The scene with the train later on in the movie, where it goes above a bridge and then it starts falling down this ravine or pit or gorge or whatever. That's pretty impressive. Of course, the question I have to ask in that scene is, what's happening to the people on the train? Why is there such disregard for the people on the train? That kind of makes me stretch my believability. Like, why would they endanger people on a train? But some of it's visually kind of interesting. In a way, it's kind of, I've seen this 1,000 times before, kind of a movie, like with the textile mill, the secret society. I mean, I've seen this over and over and over again, and I'm kind of sick of these movies, even though this is back in 2008. I'm trying to impress people with giant set pieces and, cryptic messages and all that kind of stuff. I think I'd give this film 3 stars. I don't think I would give it 4. I mean, the music's good. Some of the shots are pretty interesting, but at the end of the day, I'd have to give it 3 stars. It's a good movie. It's not a great movie. And yeah, so I guess that does it for this week. As I originally told you, I thought I was going to watch another movie, but I guess that's not going to be the case, for this video. If I do watch a movie today, I'll include it with next Saturday's movies. And anyways, thanks for watching. I recently picked up some DVDs and Blu-rays that I got for a cheap amount of money. And I might put that up today on the Saturday, or possibly another day. But in any event, that does it for this video. It is a little shorter, than the last 2 previous videos, which were around 30 minutes. And check out my GarageBand videos. I have been working on a few GarageBand pieces since the ones that have been put up recently on my channel. And check out my blog. I'll put it right here. Pools of Visions blogspot.com. www.pools, POOLSOFVISIONS blogspot.com. So check that out. See what you think. And anyways, thanks for watching. I appreciate everybody watching these videos, and I'll see you soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.